So I just wanted to put through a tutorial to show you initially how I teach my students how to read music in the piano. So you'll notice here that I've got some post-it notes, some kind of small plastic post-it strips, which I put on some keys on the piano. Let me explain why they are here. But first off, where do they go? So if you get some post-it notes and put these on the piano keys as follows. So above middle C, you've got the first one is on E, then skip, then you put another one of that same color on G, skip, B, skip, D, skip, F, and then the F below that F is a different color. So F, skip, A, skip, C, skip, E. Alright, so hopefully by now you've noticed a bit of a pattern here. We've got alternating colors, 5 of which are blue and 4 of which are green, or like a kind of a fluorescent yellow in this case. The colors don't really matter. You can do any colors you want really, as long as you've got 2 colors that are different and that are alternating in this way. So this is representative of our treble clef. You'll notice when you look at the treble clef, I'm just looking at a piece of music, that there are officially 5 lines, and between each line, or each pair of lines is a space, and there are 4 spaces. So essentially you've got the 5 lines of the treble clef represented by the blue post-it notes and the 4 spaces between the lines represented by the fluorescent yellow post-it notes. Okay, so the only question to be asked now is which is which. So is the top line this note or this note? Well, hopefully you should know that the higher you go up the piano, the further you go up here, the higher the notes sound. And so we call this a top note of the stave, the treble clef stave. So if you've got these notes in place, you should in theory be able to find any note within the music stave that you would like to. Say that bottom note of that chord there, that happens to be the bottom space of the treble clef. So we look at the bottom fluorescent yellow note, which is this. Hey, remembering that this is the top, this is the bottom. So the bottom space is here. What about the top note of that chord? Well, that's the 3rd space up. Hey, so 1, 2, 3. It's a C. The C above middle C. Let's look at another note. What about this note right here? That note is an E because it's the top space. What about this note? The top note of that chord. That is the middle line, so it's a B. So I suppose the first step when you're reading notes is to identify, is it a line note or a space note? If it's a line note, you'll know it's a blue note. So it's one of these blue ones here. Say you're looking at this note here, the bottom note there of that chord. You'll notice that blue note there, eh? Because that's the bottom line note of the treble clef. Okay? So I'm hoping this helps you make sense of the note patterns in the treble clef. And I know many pianists struggle to read the bass clef because it seems so similar to the treble clef in the way it's laid out. But if you put your notes on the piano, your post-it notes on the piano keys, just like I have here, you shouldn't have really any trouble identifying the notes. So you're going to start off with, I suppose we're going to start at the top. So we've got A, just below middle C. And you're skipping down to F, D, B, and G. And then we got G, E, C, A. Alright. So again, you're alternating. You've got 5 blue and 4 fluorescent yellow Yeah, so let's have an exploration of what's involved here. So we got this chord here. What do you think that note is? The note I'm pointing to, the bottom note of that chord. Well, it's the second note from the top, the second space note of the top, from the top. So it's this one, eh? Second from the top. What about this one, the top note of that chord? Well, it's actually not within the stave because you see it's above the top line. We can still find it though. So it's above this top line, so it's this note. It's an imaginary, I guess, continuation of the yellow notes. These two are imaginary yellow notes. What about this note here? So that note is a floating line, or is on a floating line. You'll find that if you continue the pattern of the blue notes, you'll reach middle C. So that note is middle C. Okay, imaginary blue note. Let's do a few more. So how about this one here? That note is the middle blue note of the bass clef, so it's this one, eh? This note is the second space from the bottom on the bass clef, so it is this yellow note. Okay, hopefully that makes sense to you. And so I guess that's just an introduction to how to read music within the staves, and we'll look in the next couple of tutorials as to how you can read notes that go further outside the stave. All right.